what happened was that in the last lecture, we were looking into how we can size the drivetrain and get an idea of the maximum power and maximum torque that we need at the wheels, and also what does it imply for the motor. So if we have a gear ratio, a fixed single gear ratio, then we can actually reduce the torque demand which the shaft of the motor has to produce. So that was what we saw, and we also analyzed that all the numbers that we got were based on the drive cycle. So depending on the typical driving pattern which the vehicle will undergo, we could get an estimate, an idea of what would be the power and the torque requirements of the motors which would be going into the vehicle, as well as what would be the maximum speeds and so on. So that was the initial idea. And how did we come to those numbers? So it was done by using the drive cycle data and also using the dynamic equations of motion, which you have already seen in the course. So using the both, we could derive what was the torque that was needed at the wheels, and from there we could find out what would be the power or the torque that the motor has to produce depending on what kind of gear ratio we are going to use. And we saw there were two gear ratios, 1:15 and 1:13.5. We took these two numbers because they are the most widely used gear ratios. Okay, so they're easily available. Most of the OEMs use them, so it's a pretty standard gear ratio. Otherwise you have to design a new gear and so on, so that becomes tricky and critical. So it's good that you use components which are proven and which have been in use for a certain amount of time, so the reliability and so on of the components is known to us. So that's an idea in any kind of an design of a product. So you try to use as many components which are known, which have been in production for some time, and which have high reliability. So based on those assumptions, we took these two gear ratios, 1:13.5 and 1:15. And during the course of the analysis, we also saw the behavior of the vehicle when it has to climb a grade. So we saw what would be the torque requirement when the vehicle has to climb a grade of 5 degree or 10 degree or 17 degree. Okay, so which are the situations a vehicle might encounter. So while going up a flyover or in hilly states, so there would be situations where one has to go up the grade, and the requirement is that the vehicle should be able to perform at a certain specified parameters when it's going up the grade. So maybe it has to maintain a constant speed of 30 kilometers per hour or 35 kilometers per hour at full load while going up a grade. So those are the requirements which we should ensure that the motor that we are using should be able to give, and the vehicle should be able to meet the minimum requirement. So that is what we did with the grade analysis. Now, once we know that these are the sizes of the machine, the next important thing comes is that how do we design the machine? Because if we look at all the analysis that we have done, especially if we pay attention to the drive cycles, so we can see that there is nothing like a operating point. There is no one operating point for the EV drivetrain. Okay, there are multiple speeds. There is acceleration involved at different speeds. There is a start condition. There is a stop condition. So, and it's very dynamic in nature. So, if you recall the Delhi drive cycle or the New York City cycle, for example, so both of them are extremely dynamic drive cycles. Okay, so if you have such a dynamic system, then it is not possible to pinpoint one operating point. Okay, so in that case what we have to look is the operating range. Okay, over what range is the vehicle going to operate, and that will give you a better idea of how do you have to go for the design. Now, if you recall, we saw 8 drive cycles, and the vehicle that we have taken is Tata Magic. Okay, so if I just have to see the analysis, okay, so I have the Tata Magic vehicle whose parameters are given here. all the 8 parameters necessary for the dynamic equations. Okay, and I have 8 drive cycles. So we had the LA92 drive cycle, EPA at underscore H drive cycle. We had IM240, FTP 75, US 06, NYCC, which is the New York City cycle. Then we had the Delhi drive cycle and NEDC. Okay, so now what we are going to see is something very interesting. So we have these 8 drive cycles. Okay, and we have this vehicle Tata Magic, whose parameters are given here in this table. Fine, and the dynamic equations are given in the coursework. So now using all this, what we try to get is the operating range. Now these blue dots that you see, okay, they correspond to different drive cycles. So what we have done here is we have plotted a graph where on the x-axis I have the speed in RPM, and on the y-axis I have the torque. Okay, so I have a torque versus speed characteristics. Now I take one drive cycle. Let's say I take the Delhi drive cycle. So all the blue points which we have here on the plot, they show us the torque versus speed requirement for Tata Magic when it has to drive on Delhi drive cycle. So that is the idea of it. So this is what we have done here in this figure. So similarly, what we did was that we did it for all the 8 drive cycles. Okay, so for all the 8 drive cycles, we found out that if Tata Magic has to travel on all the 8 drive cycles, then what would be the torque versus speed requirement? And if we look into it, then this is the kind of a scatter plot that we get. Okay, so all the bubbles, they show the torque versus speed requirement for each of the 8 drive cycles, and the color code is given here on top. Now if you observe these bubbles scattered all over the place in this curve, you would see that some are negative. Okay, and the negative torque comes into picture when we are trying to go for braking. Okay, so negative torque indicates the braking force, and all the positive torques, they represent the forward motion and acceleration included. Clear? Now with this kind of a plot, the question comes that what should actually be the characteristics of the motor to ensure that all the blue dots are covered. Okay, so the motor should make sure that all the blue dots should be covered. It should be able to meet each and every positive torque requirement. Okay, negative torque requirement would be met by mechanical braking and regeneration. Okay, but it is essential that all the positive torque values should be met by the motor. The motor should be able to give the all the torque values for all the speeds given here in this graph. So then what we did was we took the first example with a gear ratio of 1 is to 15. Okay, so let's keep this gear ratio 1 is to 15. Now if we go back, okay, so if we go back to our uh, analysis, so with a gear ratio of 1 is to 15, so what was actually the torque and the average torque and the average power and the average speed values of the machine? So the rated power of the machine was around 12 and a half kilowatt, and the torque was around 29 Newton meter. And if we have the other gear ratio, or rather we should go to, yeah, this table here, so we would know very well. So from here we see that if we have a higher gear ratio like 1 is to 15, then the torque or the rated torque that the machine has to produce is just 29 Newton meter. But if we have a lower gear ratio of 1 is to 15, then the motor has to produce a rated torque of 31 Newton meter. So let's keep these values in mind, okay, 29 and 31. So what happens is that if I choose a motor, okay, which is able to give me at least 30 Newton meter of power, the torque, sorry, then I have this brown curve. So this brown curve shows that the machine is able to give me 30 Newton meter. But now the question comes that it should deliver a constant torque of 30 Newton meter up to what speed? Clear? So for that, we have to go back to the analysis and we have to look into the maximum speeds of the wheel that the machine would encounter. So if we go back to the analysis, then you would see that the maximum speed that the wheel would have, and if we take the gear ratio, okay, so in that case it would go somewhere up to 12,000 rpm. So that is the maximum speed that the motor will operate at for a gear ratio of 1 is to 15, to ensure that the vehicle drives up to 50 kilometers per hour. So 50 kilometers per hour of the motor translates into 12,000 rpm for the motor speed, because we have a gear ratio in between, we have a certain radius of the wheel, so we can do all this back calculation. Okay, and that's explained in the course as well, that how do you translate speed in kilometers per hour into rpm at the wheel, and then eventually into rpm for the motor. So that we found out to be 12,000 rpm, the maximum speed for the motor. So now I told you that every motor can be overloaded. That was one point which we discussed last time. The other important thing which we have to keep in mind, that every motor has an operation which is known as field weakening. So field weakening is the region where you can extend the speed of the motor beyond the base speed. Okay, so if I say that I do field weakening and I reach a maximum speed of around 12,000 rpm, then I can get an idea, a fair idea of what would be my base speed. Okay, so usually for a good designed motor, the ratio of base speed to maximum speed is 1 is to 3. That means the maximum speed is 3 times the base speed. Here we have an idea of the maximum speed depending on the maximum kilometers per hour that the vehicle has to do. So from there we got 12,000 rpm. That is the maximum speed of the motor. And if we assume the ratio of base speed to the maximum speed to be 1 is to 3, then the base speed would be one third of maximum speed. And that comes out to be around 4,000 Newton meter. Okay. So this essentially means that we need to have a motor which will give me a constant torque of 30 Newton meter up to a speed of 4,000 Newton meter. Okay. Now beyond 4,000, what happens is that we are going into field weakening. Field weakening means you are weakening the magnetic field inside the machine. So if you are going into field weakening, then the torque output of the motor would also fall. So that means after 4,000 rpm, the torque of the machine would start to fall. Okay, and this is what you see in the brown curve. So now if I look at the brown curve, it essentially means that I need to have a motor which will give me a torque of 30 Newton meter up to a speed of 4,000 Newton meter, and beyond 4,000 Newton meter the torque will start to fall, and the motor can go up to a maximum speed of 12,000 rpm. So this is the rated curve of the machine. So whatever motor you design, that should give you the brown curve. And in the last discussion, we also figured out that every motor can be overloaded. So since these are around 12, 13 kilowatt motors, so they are all liquid cooled. So if we have liquid cooled motors, that translates, or that means that we can go for an overloading of a factor 3 or 2.7, a maximum up to 3, without any problem. Okay, so if the brown curves gives me the rated performance of the machine, then actually I can roughly multiply the brown curve by a factor 3, because it's a water cooled machine, so we can overload it by a factor 3. So this brown curve multiplied by a factor 3 gives me the black curve. Okay, now this black curves gives me the peak performance of the motor. and the brown curve gives me the rated performance of the motor. And now if you see all the operating points, okay, of all the colors, the circles, okay, they are actually within the black curve. Nothing goes beyond the black curve. That means the motor can meet all the torque requirement of the vehicle. The other observation, we see that most of the positive operating points are actually below the brown curve. So that essentially means that only sometimes we will need to overload the machine, but most of the time the machine would operate near the operating conditions. Okay, so here there are some points which are beyond the brown curve, so here the motor would be overloaded. Okay, but there are very few points when the machine will work at the peak torque versus speed condition. Okay, so they're just here. If you see graphically, there are only 3 points where the machine would come to its peak operating point, but for most of the time it will be below the peak operating point. There would be some points which will be between rated curve and the peak point. Okay, and most of the points would be below the rated curve. So if we try to have such kind of a machine, then we are sure that we will not overheat the motor. We will be sure that the motor would be able to meet each and every torque requirement, and we will be sure that all the expected performance of the vehicle would be met by the motor. So this was the scenario for a gear ratio of 1 is to 15. Now if I go for a gear ratio of 1 is to 13.5, okay, so in that case it's clear the motor has to produce a bit more torque. Okay, so if the motor has to produce a bit more torque, then the same curve which was in the previous case, okay, so in the previous case the rated value was around 30 Newton meter for the constant torque region in the brown curve. So here it would be slightly higher than 30 Newton meter. It is around 35, 36 Newton meter. Okay, so this is what we have if we have the different gear ratio. But here also, if you change the gear ratio, and if you take a motor which has a higher rated torque, because the gear ratio is smaller here, so we need a motor with a higher rated torque. So in that case also we would be able to meet all the operating points, and the machine will come to peak operating conditions only seldom, and for most of the operating points it will be below the rated curve, and this would ensure that the machine is not damaged. Okay, so these are some of the points which we have to keep in mind. Now this gives you an idea of how we are able to derive or determine actually the performance characteristics of the machine based on the analysis that we have done so far. And eventually if we see, then there was, in the next slide you would see that this is the design specification sheet for the Tata Magic. Okay, and all the important parameters are mentioned here. The important parameters that are given is the mass of the vehicle, the motor type. Okay, so we could use an induction motor, we can also use a PM motor, or we can even use a synchronous reluctance motor. Okay, and what is the motor rating? It should produce 12 kilowatt, should have 29 Newton meter of torque for continuous or rated condition, and it should give a peak power of around 31.89 kilowatt. So it's roughly 3 times, okay, not exactly 3 times, a bit less than 3 times. And also the peak power is 87 Newton meter if we go for a gear ratio of 1 is to 15. If we want to go for a gear ratio of 1 is to 13.5, then this is the rating of the machine. The power won't change, but the continuous torque is now, or the rated torque is now 31 Newton meter instead of 29 Newton meter. And the peak torque is now 93 Newton meter instead of 87 Newton meter. And which is obvious, it's because of the change in the gear ratio. And the battery, So here also one thing we have to keep in mind: if you want to go for a good design of an uh, EV motor, then make sure that you have a high voltage and low current motor. So we try to keep the voltage as high as possible. So if the voltage is higher, then the current requirement will be lower. If the current requirement is lower, then the cables and the conductors would be uh, less, of a lesser diameter, so that reduces the weight of the copper used inside the machine. Okay, so we try to keep the voltage levels as high as possible, staying within the regulation. And the other parameters which are given is acceleration at 5-degree grade and acceleration at 10-degree grade. That's based on the analysis that we had done, okay, the grade climbing analysis. So it's 0 to 30 kilometers per hour for 5-degree grades, and it should do that within 10 seconds. And at 10-degree grade, it should go from 0 to 30 kilometers per hour, and it should do that in less than 17 seconds. And the mass of the or the passenger capacity of the vehicle is 8 passengers plus the driver, and the range on a single charge would be around 170 kilometer. So these were the proposed specifications of the drivetrain. And earlier, what even Tata had done is that they came out with a smaller version of Tata Magic, an electric version of Tata Magic, which was much smaller than the actual Magic, and they called it as Iris EV. Okay, so if you see here, the Iris EV had a mass of 1300 kilogram. It was less heavier than the actual Magic. Okay, and Tata's went for three-phase induction motor. The rating was 8 kilowatt and 35 Newton meter. Of course, the vehicle is no more a 1600 kilogram vehicle. It has less weight, and if you see, the number of passengers is 4, including the driver. In the actual Tata Magic, it was 8 plus the driver, so the number of people is also less, so the power requirement went down for the drive cycles. And the continuous torque or the rated torque was around 35 Newton meter. That's what they went for, and this was the peak performance. So here you see the overloading factor was around 2 for the torque, okay, instead of 3. So it was 2 because they did not go for water cooled machine, they didn't go for liquid cooled machine, they went for air cooled machine. So if you go for air cooling, then you cannot overload it much. If you go for liquid cooled machine, then you can overload it more. So that is now the specification which Tata had for the EV version of Tata Magic, and they used a gear ratio of 1 is to 13.5. Okay, and they had a 72 volt 200 ampere battery, whereas our design was 200 volt 105 ampere hour battery. So we went for a higher voltage to keep the mass of the motor down, and to keep the volume of the motor down. So these were some of the major differences. Okay, so here, through this analysis, I wanted to show you that actually it is possible to come to a design specification sheet like the one shown in the figure, based on the drive cycle, the vehicle parameters, and the dynamic equations that we have seen in the coursework. Okay, and that can give you a lot of idea, and you can do a lot of analysis and come to a stage where now you can give this specification sheet to the design engineers who will be designing motors. They have almost all the information that they need, and then they can start to design the machine, the converters, the inverters, and control strategies, and so on. Okay, so you can actually come to such high level design specification sheets with minimum inputs, with all the values which are readily available and easily available. So that is what I wanted to show you through these 2-3 lectures.